Still using your old school AOL email address? Well, then just stop watching here, because obviously you're not interested in new technology. You're just fine using your old school polishes and compounds. But if you are interested in new technology, you may want to pay attention. All right, guys, Nano Surface Primers. This is truly revolutionary technology. There is no relation to anything you currently have on your shelf. So let's take a little bit deeper dive into this. When you look at a polish or a compound, it's essentially made of two elements. You have the abrasive and you have the carrier. So when you're talking old school technology and you're talking that abrasive, that's DAT or SMAT, which is diminishing abrasive technology, which is basically little seashells that break up over time, or you have SMAT, which is super micro abrasive technology, which is like what Mike Phillips calls rocks in a bottle. These are rocks that have jagged edges, that are inconsistently shaped and sized. So that means that they are inconsistent as far as their material removal on the surface. Now let's look at new technology and our Nano Surface Primers. And what is in our Nano Surface Primers? Microspheres. What makes microspheres so awesome? These are engineered abrasives. These are perfectly shaped spheres with near infinite cutting facets in them. So that means when we're doing our paint correction, we are being much more efficient with our material removal. If we look at old school rocks, we're gonna dig deeper than we need to. If we go new technology microsphere, we are going to only perform the amount of correction that we absolutely need to attain that finish that we desire. Now, the other element of a polish or a compound is the carrier. And this is really where we had the big breakthrough. So our carrier is what's called Nano Gel. And Nano Gel is super awesome because it does not have anything in common with old school carriers. What's in old school carriers? You're talking oils and silicone that's in these old school polishes and compounds. Now, oils and silicone are awesome if you plan on following this up with carnauba per se. That's great, but if you actually intend to follow your paint correction with a nanotechnology coating, well, this silicone and this oil are actually contaminants that are gonna hinder the adhesion of that ceramic coating to the panel. So what do we do to clean up this mess that we've just jammed all these contaminants into our paint? Well, we gotta come back with some sort of panel prep or IPA wipe. So, you know, if you must go down this path, I would suggest Dr. Beasley's Panel Prime if you are going to have a prayer of adhesion. But really, what you should do is if you are laying down new technology coatings, why don't you just start with a new technology paint correction tool in a Nano Surface Primer. So with new technology comes new techniques, and something that's to be expected when you first start using our Nano Surface Primers is a short learning curve. Because basically all the techniques you're currently using are founded in old technology, and it's not going to translate over to Nano Surface Primers. So, you know, what are the main things you have to be concerned about? Well, the headliner is always skip the IPA wipe. You know, that's what everyone gets excited about, is that we're skipping over that when you use the Nano Surface Primer. So that's true. But there are some other elements that you have to get into. Number one is the fact that the Nano Gel itself actually runs cooler than any of those traditional carriers that are out there. So there's going to be much less risk of burning paint, but it also increases your working time. So as you're working a Nano Surface Primer on the surface, you'll see how much longer you're actually able to keep that buffer on that paint, keep that correction going well and beyond where a traditional polish or compound would have given up and you would have had to reapply. The other element is how much of the product you're going to use. And this is really where most people who first start using a Nano Surface Primer really have difficulty with it, because I did too. Your initial instinct is to grab your buffer and do a couple of rounds around your pad. Well, in fact, you probably just laid down enough to do an entire car of Nsp. So you have to get used to this idea that you're going to use a fraction of the amount of product that you were using with your traditional compound or polish. So again, we have to consider you're saving time and creating efficiency here. You're skipping the IPA wipe. you are having a longer work time because the gel runs cooler, and you're also using less product because it goes further. Okay, so now let's familiarize ourselves with the entire NSP line. So first, we'll start off with Nsp 150. So the numbers refer to the size of the abrasive that is in that Nsp. So right here, we have 1.5 microns is the diameter of the microspheres within Nsp 150. So this is basically your heavy cut compound right here. So then, moving on, then we have our Nsp 95. This is 0.95 micron diameter microspheres. So this is going to be your kind of fine cut here, your swirl remover as far as your paint correction is concerned there. Then from the 95, we move on to the Nsp 45. This is, again, 0.45 microns is the diameter of the microsphere. This is your finishing polish, almost a jeweling polish. This is something you're not gonna get a great deal of defects out, but you're gonna lay down incredible gloss with the 45. And then, to complete the collection, you have Nsp Z1. This is a true AIO, or all-in-one. So this, you have a range of microspheres starting at 0.45, going up to almost 0.95, so you get a decent amount of correction there, but this has amped up SiO2 and TiO2 nanotechnology, so you are able to do your paint correction and walk away having laid down a coating that has a service life up to 1 year. So again, you have your full suite of correction tools in your 45, 95, and 150, or you can go to your all-in-one, which is your Nsp Z1. So the biggest thing you're going to see initially with the NSPs is consistency. The consistency is somewhere between gel and cottage cheese, and the whole idea here is that we want to keep the product on top of the pad, so that way it's between the pad and the paint and not absorbed inside the pad where it's wasted. The other thing you'll notice sometimes is how you might lose it off your pad because how it sits on top of the pad. So your technique to resolve this situation cleanly is the 10 and 10 technique, which is simply put your buff run down and raise it to 10 degrees and pick it up at 10 o'clock. So now you'll see the NSP laying down, and it is very wet and it is very tacky, very obvious by looking at it. And so you'll see here when I pull up that, you know, this kind of wet tackiness is going to make for an absolutely miserable takeoff. It's just not going to be a happy experience. It's going to be smeary. It's just not going to be very nice. So this is typically caused by one of two things. Number one, using too much product. Number two, not working it long enough. So how do we resolve that? Well, we're going to bring it back, and I'm not even going to add any product because I started with too much to begin with. So we're not even going to add any product. I'm just going to put the pad back down on the surface, and I'm going to start working the product. Now the difference here is you're going to see as I work it again, when he started, it's got that wet, tacky look to it, but as I make my passes and as I continue to work the product, you're going to see a change. And specifically, one of those changes you're looking for are bare spots. So as you work the product, you know, this might be a signal in the old days that, oh my God, I don't have enough product, I might burn the paint. Well, those bare spots are actually a signal for you that you're getting to the point of happy takeoff. So as you'll see here, after I pull up after this last pass, the takeoff is going to be a much more pleasant experience as far as pulling the NSP off. I'm simply going to be able to take my microfiber, do a wipe, a flip, and a buff, and you know, you're going to see, look how well that turned out. And this is our heavy cut Nsp 152, so that's really pretty impressive that it's able to finish out with that kind of gloss right off the bat. The 150, the 95, all of these, actually all of them are going to have nanotechnology. So as you are abrading the surface, you are laying down that nanotechnology. So you can actually move from paint correction into coating from 45, 95, 150, 95, 45, or Z1. However, when you go to the 45, that has, again, a little bit more amped up nanotechnology to lay down that matrix of anchor points that's going to be waiting to accept that coating. So a lot of times what I kind of The analogy I'll use is the Velcro analogy. So when you are using our NSPs, you are laying down that bottom layer of Velcro that is waiting for that coating or that top layer of Velcro to come down and attach to it. And this is how we are really creating that most durable possible bond by having a totally inorganic system that works together. So now let's have a look at someone who does this all day, every day as a professional. This is Christian, who's our foreman at Simon's Detail, who I like to call the Magic Man. So anyway, first thing you're gonna notice, look how little Christian uses. There's so little NSP on his pad. But again, you'll see how he works it. And this is the name of the game with NSPs. You are going to use less product and you're gonna work it longer than you're used to. You have to break those old habits that you learned from old technology. So you'll see as Christian's working it here on the surface that I'm pointing out these little bare spots that are starting to pop up. Again, these are your signals that you're getting to the point of happy takeoff. Old technology would say, oh my God, I got to reapply product or else I'm gonna burn paint. But we're not dealing with old technology. This is new technology which needs new techniques. So again, you'll see Christian, how he works the product. Notice his arm speed, notice his machine speed. I think we're on a flex finisher and we're at about, I see 5 right about here. And you'll see, look at all of these little kind of bare spots and stuff like that, that again, these are our signals that we are at a point of happy takeoff. And happy takeoff simply means we're able to put a microfiber down and do a simple wipe, a flip, and a buff, and we're moving on to the next area. We're efficient, we're timely, and we're creating incredible gloss. I mean, look at the finish on this gloss. And this is our Nsp 150, which is our heavy cut abrasive. And look how gorgeous this is finishing out on this black paint. Really, really impressive results. All right, so when it comes to troubleshooting our Nano Surface Primers, fortunately, this is going to be a very short section. Essentially, really the only thing that we hear from time to time is what we call cementing, which is essentially difficult takeoff. And this is usually the root cause of cementing or difficult takeoff is a combination of one or two, it could be or a combination of one or two things. And that would be A, not working the product long enough, or B, using too much product. So, the long-term solution not to run into that is use less product and work it longer. However, if you have already encountered that problem and you have an NSP firmly cemented onto a panel, at that point your solution is going to be simply mist some distilled water onto the surface and take your microfiber and remove. So that's our primer on Nano Surface Primers. Of course, all our fine NSPs are available at drbeasleys.com. We did cover a lot of material here today, so if you have any questions at all, please do leave those questions or comments down below for us. And again, folks, please like and subscribe so we can keep on bringing you great content just like this.